Hey, this is Hayden Gillum. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Medallia Superbike race 1. Here we go. And a good launch from our pole sitter, PJ Jacobsen, on the right side of the screen, the 66. But how about Cameron Peterson? So here goes Jake Gagne. He comes across the stripe, will take victory. And the battle for second place is going to be won by Cameron Peterson, who holds off Matthew Schultz. So it's going to be a 1-2 finish for the freshly progressive Yamaha team. You're locked into the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. Our round, Superbikes at New Jersey, right here in Millville, New Jersey. It's time for Medallia Superbike, race number 2 of our 9th round of the season, and we're racing up New Jersey Motorsports Park. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time world champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, very interesting racing yesterday as Danilo Petrucci was struggling a bit, but Jake Gagne went back to his winning ways.
Yeah, Danilo was struggling, but he fought all the way to get that 4th place finish and limit the damage in that championship. Gagne, at the beginning of the race, had some pressure from Cam Peterson and Matthew Schultz, would eventually pull away.
Yeah, Jay, you know, the real story here is that we've been talking about for the last couple days is it's really like Danilo Petrucci on his Ducati versus Yamaha.
Yeah, you almost feel bad for him because he doesn't really have any allies as far as any other Ducatis or people out there to help him along to get in between as well. So, but today we could be a little bit different with some of the conditions we have. As we look at some race highlights from yesterday, Greg, you can see Cam Peterson getting himself a good start there and jumping out front early. Jake Gagne would make this aggressive move up in the 7, 8, 9 area. Caught Cam a little bit by surprise, it looked like there, but we'd have a red flag for Hector Barbera, who would get that Tyler's bike back out onto the grid. Gagne on the restart would get the start that we normally see him get. He would eventually pull away from this battle for second as these two went back and forth over and over again. Gagne there was a little bit too powerful, Greg, and he would come across, win this race, extend his championship point lead to 13 as the two Yamahas come second and third behind him.
Yeah, and this day is wet. It's going to be definitely a different day. Well, on this day of remembrance, it's important that our community honor the memory of those that lost their lives on this fateful day 21 years ago. For more, here's Jamie Howe.
Greg, September 11th, 2001 was a day that started just like any other. Americans went to school, we went to work, and we went about our normal morning routines. But also that morning, 19 men hijacked 4 U.S. commercial airplanes. In total, 2,977 people lost their lives. Of those who perished, 343 were New York City firefighters. 23 were New York City police officers, and 37 were officers of the Port Authority. In a true show of American heroism, more than 1,500 first responders gathered together at Ground Zero in an attempt to find survivors and clean up the wreckage. On this Patriot Day, a national day of service and remembrance, please join together in a moment of silence. Fires burned for 99 days in the rubble at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But we as Americans were resilient. We kept the American spirit alive, and we rallied around the phrase, "United we stand." Now, 21 years later, please go forward and truly never forget.
All right, the horn sounds. We get ready. Again, 9/11, a day that you really don't want to think about, but I can't think of a better place in the world I'd rather be than just outside of New York and in this area. Roger Hayden, I'm Robbie Floyd. As the Medallia Superbikes get ready to take the track, and we question whether they would be on slicks or the wets. When you were looking at those shots, and we're looking out our window now, the rain is starting to come down harder.
Yeah, the rain's starting to come down harder. If they declared, being a wet race, so if it does start raining, they have to stay out. So they don't have to red flag it. If they declare it a dry race and it starts raining, then they're able to would red flag it. But now with it being a wet race, if it starts raining, they do not have to red flag it. So it's going to be risky. You don't know. Some guys might take a shot. What about if you're a guy back here, Ashton Yates or Travis Wyman or somebody like that, to go on a totally different tire choice than everybody else? Just take a chance.
Yeah, could have done that, but I don't see it now. It just looks like it's coming down too hard. But what about some of those guys? I look at Brandon Posh starting in 14th place on the 96 Altus Motorsports entry. One of these guys that can kind of just throw it out there. He's been on this track so many times. He's tested here so many times. There's going to be many riders that are going to be skeptical. If you've ridden this track so much, you're going to have an advantage.
Yeah, if you've been here before, but I think now with the track, as it starts raining heavier, the thing about the wet, it is going to change every lap.
Yeah.
Is it going to get a little bit wetter?
That little bit of wet is the worst time, right? If it were raining, fairly decent or kind of wet, it kind of washes off some of that schmutz. But when it's that thin layer early on, it's even more tough, isn't it?
See, I see Michael Gilbert, his team's down there making a tire change. He had slicks on, so I don't know if he's going from taking the slicks off to the wet or.
So that would be Andrew Lee's.
Yeah, he's taking the slick off.
Yeah, so he was going to be that guy, that would give it that try. We saw it, we've seen it work before.
These guys didn't make it out.
So they have to start. They lose their grid spot and have to go to the back. When you have that many, how do you decide that?
Well, sometimes they let them get their spot.
Yeah, tough decision for them. And if that's the case, you see Matty Skoltz, you see Brandon Posh in there.
They're all on wets.
You see Hector Barr. I can't imagine anybody going slicks now, though. I mean, it's just raining too much, or had rained in that last few minutes. David Anthony, you see Jake Snake back there as well. He's got wet tires. But you're also seeing riders, and we've talked about it, these are the best riders, whether it be around the world, MotoGP winners, MotoAmerica winners. These guys are used to riding in the rain. You can see it starting to come down even harder. They're going to try and get that clear vision to the first turn. Who's going to cross that stripe first on that final lap? This 15-lap race getting ready to get underway in New Jersey.
Medallia Superbike coverage is sponsored by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Welcome back. We know that Medallia Superbike race number 2 is declared a wet race. So, Jason, take us around to Jersey Motorsports Park.
Well, it's not going to be as fast now, Greg, but we're going to head down to turn 1. These guys are going to be feeling for grip all the way around here. Turns 3A, B, C. Those are going to be a little bit of the tricky situation over there. I think that's where we got to pay a lot of attention to. Braking into 5 and then that downhill into 6. Up that hill, when you start to accelerate, the bike loads in turn 7. Then you go up that big steep hill. Not really steep, but it's steep enough in these conditions. And then that run to the checkered flag again, Greg, through those last S's. It's going to be really, these teams have had to make a lot of adjustments, late adjustments, before they get ready to go back out.
All right, let's take a more intimate look at New Jersey Motorsports Park with our very own Roger Hayden on his Ducati Fast Lap.
Let's look at some spots on my Ducati V4S. Starting with turn 1. Hard braking, most riders going back to second gear. The hard part though is holding your line on the exit so the guy can't drive back underneath you. And then turn 4, a really fast right-hander. You let your momentum carry you out, put you on the inside for turn 5 where you can make a block pass into the tight left. And then the last corner, turn 12. A really fast right-hander leading onto the front straightaway. If you can get a good run out of there, you can maybe make the draft before the finish line.
Let's take a look at the starting grid for our 15-lap race. B.J. Jacobson, Cam Peterson, and Jake Gagne.
Petrucci, Scults, and Barbara. And then you have Gillum, Lewis, Dave Anthony, Yates, Wyman, and Escalante. Corey Alexander, Brandon Posh, Andrew Lee, Flinders, Jeff May, Ezra Bovier. On back to 7 and 8, we got Dunham and Lewis and Davis. Coffey, Nolan Lampkin and Jason Waters. Zach Schumacher, Ryan Burke. And then we have Zach and Michael Butler. Greg, these are just such iffy conditions, and you got to just start thinking about the championship, right? I mean, for Petrucci, we know how good he is in the wet, and we saw everybody out there in that short practice session just before the start of this. It's going to be really interesting. This is the kind of thing that can really throw the championship for a loop.
So motorcycles are coming to the grid. They're positioned. And P.J. Jacobson will take his spot on the front row. So if you're new to motorcycle road racing, we do race in the rain. You can see on the front of Matthew Scults' number 11 bike that these Dunlop tires, they're deeply grooved, they're softer compound, they're designed to whisk away water. The question becomes, is the track wet enough to keep these tires cool? Now what we don't have is we don't have the sun coming out. We definitely don't have like
no wind.
A wind to speak of. So,
but it's not raining right now.
It's not on the front straightaway that we can see for sure.
And you can see everybody standing in pit lane. Nobody has umbrellas. Petrucci, I think this is his time. I mean, he's got to try to take advantage of this today and try to go forward, and he can close this points lead back down from 13 and get it really doable for Barber. So we'll see what's going. We're getting reports that it is still sprinkling. So, you know, if he can get himself into a spot where he can kind of go into Barber close, that would be great. Got to get this thing started. Let's go.
All right, so the grid is formed up.
Looks like there's a red flag waving, Greg, on the stand. So something's going on here.
So the start is delayed.
Yep.
We're in communication. Our TV truck is with MotoAmerica Race Control, so we await the information on that. Petrucci has dismounted from his motorcycle, and it looks like he's trying to push his motorcycle back.
Well, he's used to the fact that when a start is delayed, everybody goes back to their garages or pit lane, and looks like they're.
And now we're getting a signal from the flagging stand that it looks like it's going to be another warm-up lap. Yep, there it is. So another warm-up lap, as we also saw Petrucci put his hand in the air for a moment. He had to get his Ducati started. So what happened, Jason, is that this was the first session of the weekend for Medallia Superbike that's wet. So what we do know is that they did get a 15-minute session just before this happened.
They did.
They opened up pit lane and they sent out a bunch of riders, but some of them were still in pit lane because the time between when that session ended and when pit lane opened to get riders out on track for the sighting lap was pretty tight. Not all the teams got their motorcycles out there.
Got it.
But at least the riders
themselves. We saw a lot of those riders at the end of pit lane, didn't we?
At the end of pit lane, yeah. So a lot of those riders, though, most of them went out and got a little bit of time, and that's part of how we do. You're not going to send someone out on a rain tire, on a rain setup without actually any laps whatsoever. So that was part of that session. So we're on another warm-up lap. Now, Jason, let's talk about Danilo Petrucci. For those that are new to Medallia Superbike, Danilo Petrucci comes over from MotoGP, the Italian. It's his first year here in MotoAmerica. He's second in that championship, as you saw earlier on. But Jason, in MotoGP, they have races scattered all over the world. And Petrucci is definitely known as a rider who is amazing in the rain. So, Jay, you talked about the opportunity for Petrucci to score well here.
Well, this is an opportunity because, you know, I think Barber is going to be a tremendous track for Petrucci. I think it's going to be really good for him down there. And if there's an opportunity for him to claw back some of those points that he lost yesterday, he lost 12 points yesterday, Greg. So if he can claw back some of those points here right now, that could pay huge dividends for him when we get down to Alabama in a couple of weeks. Now, we've seen this guy win at Le Mans in the rain. Obviously, he had a very famous win in the dry at Mugello. But he's also, I can think of a couple other races at Aston, I think, with Rossi there. He was very close to winning in the wet. So obviously, he's very seasoned and knows what he's doing in these conditions. So I mean, this is a big chance.
Plus, we have P.J. Jacobson, who has tons of international experience on his resume. He's really good in the rain. Matthew Scults has won a Superbike race in the rain back in the day when we used to do stock 1000 and Superbike combined, and he won it on a stock 1000 motorcycle. Jake Gagne has proven that he's really good in the rain. Hector Barbera's got a lot of international. I mean, there are quite a few riders in here that have got a lot of skill.
So the problem was, Greg, as you look at our grid now, there was a number of riders that didn't make that initial start. They had to get those guys in the last rows. That's exactly what the problem was. Everyone went to their original grid positions. The riders that didn't make it out needed to go to the back of the grid. And so now we've got this problem again where we've got riders getting pushed backwards and things. So now the grid looks like it's set, but we're going to have a number of very fast guys coming from the back of the grid, Greg. Jake Lewis, Matthew Schultz, to name a couple, as well as Hector Barbera.
The championship points leader, the number 1 in his original grid spot, as is the number 9, second in points. Revs are up. Here we go. Medallia Superbike race number 2, scheduled for 15 laps. Now 14 laps, and there goes Petrucci up the inside, and Danilo Petrucci will take over the lead, but Cameron Peterson looked like he was going to have none of it.
But this is exactly what you would expect, isn't it? I mean, Petrucci just goes straight to the front. Now it's going to be a matter of him filling out these conditions as well as the riders behind him. I mean, for him to make that move, that was a big, big move, and Cam Peterson doesn't want to let him get away, doesn't want to let him just run off out into the distance. So Cam Peterson on the 45 doing what he can to keep him inside early.
Don't forget Cameron Peterson, Jay. If I remember correctly, his first win ever was in the rain in the Supersport category a number of years ago.
Utah, wasn't it in Utah that he did that? So yeah, I do remember that. And you could see PJ Jacobson running there in third. As you pointed out, Greg, another guy with a ton of experience in these kind of conditions. How about Ashton Yates there in fifth? Looked like Hayden Gillum in sixth. And remember, we have got a number of guys coming from the back of the grid that are going to be moving their way forward, or at least trying to.
So Danilo Petrucci trying to find his way around to Jersey Motorsports Park, a racetrack that is known for grip being at a premium, let's put it that way, especially in the wet conditions. So this first lap or two is going to be, where is the grip? Where can these riders possibly find the traction they need?
But it's not like it's pouring. It's not like we have a ton of rain right now to really soak this racetrack. So these tires are going to get heated up pretty quickly. We're going to keep an eye on those lap times after they come through on their next lap to see exactly how slow the track actually is. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. Now keep also in mind, and looks like it's PJ Jacobson has tossed it away between turns 1 and 2.
Wow, and the motorcycle just missed him.
Wow.
So that one, unfortunately, that bike is a write-off. So PJ, our first victim that we've seen so far, and it looks like his suit doing a good job.
See if he hit any kind of white lines or any of that. But if you remember, let's go back to the race that we had where we had a little bit of rain. We're going to see PJ's bike come into the bottom right part of your screen on the left there. You're going to see the bike ripping along. And watch this bike flip, Greg, and just disintegrate. Lucky that PJ didn't get too underneath that bike because he did make contact with it. Glad to see him walk away.
Jay, and we do know that there is FIM homologated paint here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. That means that the paint actually has aggregate in it. So it's not tractionless paint that you would find on the street on your public roads. It does have some grip in it, but there is definitely a distinction in asphalt to paint, and when you make that transition, so PJ may have caught that edge.
Yeah, Petrucci right now would love nothing more than to come around and see a plus something on his board. Anything but +0 will make the number 9 happy because he'll know that he's starting to get away from the 2 behind him. Now keep in mind, we saw Gagne give some points away at Road America when we had wet conditions. And right now he's doing a good job keeping himself in third. A minute 32.3, and I think yesterday a minute 20.3 was our quickest lap. So it's some 13 seconds slower in the conditions currently than we saw yesterday.
Danilo Petrucci doing what we thought. And bike's already starting to move around. He's slipping and sliding his way. In addition to the experience that Danilo Petrucci has, Ducati as a manufacturer across the board, MotoGP, World Superbike, and here in MotoAmerica, known for having a great electronic setup. And that's part of it. And it's not just the electronics that change when riders switch from a dry setup to a rain setup. And here in Medallia Superbike, in MotoAmerica, of course, we have a one-bike rule, which means there's only one motorcycle that gets through tech inspection, one motorcycle they race. The only way they could go on a second bike is if they destroyed their first bike. So it's really on the mechanics and the crew to figure out how to set up geometry. Some riders want that change. How to set up softer suspension. Some riders want that change. There isn't a rider in this field that I know of, Jason, that says, I like in wet conditions, the same setup I like in the dry.
Yeah.
There's always some adjustments.
They're going to make some adjustments. The one adjustments I'm noticing from this guy right here, Jake Gagne, is yesterday he was back shifting into second going into turn 7. He would short shift the bike going up the hill into third. Now he's keeping it in second, Greg, keeping the RPMs a little bit higher, running it up that hill. Talked to Cam Peterson this morning he relayed the same thing to me. So a little bit slower, and we'll see what the lap times are this time through.
Let's check in with Jamie.
I sat down with both Jake Gagne and Cameron Peterson for a little bit this afternoon, and we talked about this championship scenario. You know, Jake Gagne leads right now over Danilo Petrucci, and he won the race yesterday, getting those maximum points, but it came after Cam Peterson moved to the side for him. Cam was enthusiastic about it because he stayed in second place toward the end of the race and kept it with under a 5-second gap, but he also realizes his role right now within that attack performance team is to give Jake Gagne the best chance that he has to win. And I'm watching these gaps right now. Jake Gagne is 4.2 seconds behind Cameron Peterson. He was as close as 2.3 seconds. So if he gets back up there, I would look for Cam Peterson to let him go and then defend from third place.
Very interesting proposition. Now let's get to the fourth member of our broadcast team who we haven't had a chance to talk to. It's Hannah Lofa. Hey, Hannah, how are you?
Greg, just ahead of Jake Gagne, out front for the first time that we've seen in quite a long time with Jake Gagne on the field is Danilo Petrucci, and the story that we've been hearing all weekend long is kind of the Yamaha versus Petrucci. It's been 3 against 1, and this weather is kind of acting almost like an ally for Danilo. You know, he doesn't mind the rain. He doesn't necessarily always hope for rain, but he knows he's had success in the rain. The team did test here earlier in the season, and it was really, really hot, so it gave him the opportunity to familiarize himself with the track. As far as rain setup, they did their best to get him comfortable, and he looks it right now. But he said at this point in the championship, he knows any opportunity to try and beat Jake, he's gonna take it, and he was hoping that this rain would work in his favor. It certainly is right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the thing that concerns me, Jason, is looking at this is that he's already got a lot of movement in the Dunlop tires, of course, with as big as the grooves are in the tires themselves to whisk away water normally when it's like raining. I mean, these rain tires are used for all conditions. They move around a little bit, squirm around underneath Petrucci.
Yeah,
but I think Petrucci's probably going, okay, let's get a little bit more rain in here.
Yeah, I think right now he's got +4. He can start to dictate how fast or how slow he wants to go. The fact that the race is shortened to me is going to play out to be a huge advantage to him, because if it did dry up, the fact that they shortened it 5 laps, that's going to be an advantage because he won't have to deal with that tire wear as much. He runs 32.1 that last time by. The guy that's matching him is right there, number 11, Matthew Schultz, with a 32.1 himself. And let's give Ashton Yates a shout out. Look at him right now on that Scheibe BMW, the 22, running in 4th position. This young man has done a tremendous job this year in working in his first year in Superbike with a good team. And, you know, to see him running 4th right now, we also know how good this kid rides supermoto bikes. And he's going to be putting some of that to the test today as well.
Out of Milledgeville, Georgia, on the aftercare, Hayes Scheibe Racing. That's a BMW S1000RR. Of course, BMW has 2 models of their 1000cc inline 4. The M1000RR being the premier bike that's come out recently, has already wrapped up a national championship here in MotoAmerica. So riding that bike, Ashton Yates having a good go at it, but there's Matthew Schultz. He'll go up the inside, take position.
Well, he just ran the fastest lap of the race, Greg. 31.7 from Matthew Schultz. He's some 10.5 seconds behind our race leader. The thing I'm starting to look at, though, is I'm trying to see this gap between Ashton Yates and Matthew Schultz up to Jake Gagne is starting to slowly come down just a little bit. It was 2.3 seconds that last time by. I think Matthew Schultz has the pace to catch up to Jake Gagne, and he might just bring Ashton Yates along with him.
Let's not forget, Matthew Schultz races a Yamaha R1 for Westby Racing, but that doesn't mean that he's part of the Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha team. They're completely different. Oh, a little interesting.
Yeah, it looked like
throttle there.
Almost sounded like the bike spun up, maybe as he was trying to change gear or something like that, but definitely something weird kind of happened. And you could just see at the bottom of our picture there as they came out of turn 6, you could see Gagne right there. He's just not that far in front of him. This guy is on a mission. What do we got? 9 laps to go, Greg. So
9 laps to go, which means that if he had a chance of winning this race, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but he'd have to start taking out 1.2 seconds per lap on Petrucci. Last time by, Petrucci did a 1:31.8 to Scholz's 1:31.7. But we're getting close to the start-finish line when we'll get another look at the total lap time. So Petrucci comes across the stripe, 1:32.334. Here comes Scholz. He had 10 seconds last time by. That gap gets reduced to 9.9, and he goes fastest again, so a 1:31.6. So not a huge chunk of time, but still something. And
well,
keep in mind,
1.1 now to Gagne, too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really the big deal. And the question I have is, Matthew Scholz, yes, they race under the Yamaha banner. I understand that, but he's also going to get a result for his team,
100%.
Westby Racing. It doesn't mean he's going to play nice with Jake Gagne. It's up to Gagne to win this championship on his own, as Gagne looks over his shoulder. Don't see that very often from the 2010.
Oh, Matthew just had a little bit of a moment there as you saw his foot slip off the peg. The pass that he'll make, hopefully, Greg, I know, Matthew, it'll be a clean one. There'll be no risk involved with that. And you can see again as he comes out of that turn 5 area, he wants to go to the front, does Matthew. He just wants to get Pi Gagne nice and clean and smooth and then try to get to the front.
There goes Scholz. He tips it on by Gagne. Gagne does the right thing. Don't want to risk it all. Now Scholz signals to the
Junior Cup. We're going Junior Cup racing.
We're going Red Bull Rookies Cup. I mentioned that Gagne won the 2010 Red Bull Rookies Cup World Championship, and that was during a time when Matthew Scholz was around. So these two have been around each other for many, many years. And, of course, between Cameron Peterson, Peterson and Scholz are very close.
The problem is Ashton Yates is on the back of Gagne now as well. So Ashton Yates has a podium sniff right up there at road in front of him, and he's going to do the same, though. He'll be smart if he gets up to the back of that number 1 plate, as we see going through that time. 33.2 was the quickest by Cam Peterson that time. 1 point difference, Greg, now in the point standings if it ended now.
Right.
The 12 points he lost yesterday, he's brought him right back.
Exactly, but here's the situation as you're talking about. That Ashton Yates, if he can push his way into 4th place, that's worth another 2 points. So if Ashton Yates is able to reel in Jake Gagne and pass him by the end of this race, we're going to see Petrucci lead this championship by a single point.
That kind of makes you wonder what would have happened if the Westby team and Matthew Scholz could have got out to their original grid spots. This guy would probably be up there running the pace with Petrucci, because he right now is matching Petrucci lap for lap. Now, I know Danilo is probably up there kind of managing his time as well, as you get a good solid look again of Ashton Yates. These guys, Greg, are 9 and almost 10 seconds ahead of Danilo Lewis, who's back there in 6th place.
Hannah, what about Ashton doing a great job right now?
Last year at the season finale at Barber Motorsports Park, we saw torrential downpours. Ashton got 2 4th positions and a 5th on a stock bike in the Superbike class, so already an impressive feat on its own. This year, it is his first season on this motorcycle. He doesn't have any rain time on this bike at all, aside from a couple laps when we saw some sprinkles at Pittsburgh. When I spoke to the team, you know, he's in the very experienced hands of Steve Scheibe, and of course his father has a lot of years of experience as well as his grandfather, and they have enough background knowledge to make a really good educated guess at an intermediate setup. So not too soft because it's not raining too hard. But Ashton Yates is definitely in good shape right now as he's getting closer to Jake Gagne.
Yeah, and in terms of lap time, it hasn't been the greatest weekend for the Aftercare Scheibe Racing team, because they found, Jason, a crack in the swing arm, in one of the swing arms earlier this weekend, and so they were able to put a new swing arm on the motorcycle and get him back up to pace. Now here's Matthew Scholz hounding 45 Camp Peterson. So it's fresh and lean progressive Yamaha R1 versus Westby Racing Yamaha R1, as Peterson had a look over his shoulder, and of course he is, because he's going to hear something. Here goes Scholz, the South African, with a new contract, 30 years old, and Peterson gets right back around him.
Yeah, I just kind of cut it back up underneath him on the exit there, did Peterson. So he knows Matthew's there now, and these guys have pulled away ever so slightly from Gagne. You can see now there's a big gap there. So, Peterson gets really shot out of the seat there. Let's see if Matthew's going to go past him up that hill.
All the while, Danilo Petrucci has an 8.4 second lead, which after this little melee between these two might even be larger than that, but a 1:32.7 for Petrucci as Scholz moves his way into 2nd place.
It's a great camera angle right there. It's right as they start to screw the throttle on, Greg. You go through a big kind of compression where you go from downhill back to uphill, and that transition you can see there just caught Cam out just a little bit, but he's going to get reorganized here and try to go back after. Now he'll know the gap back to his teammate as well.
Larger gap back to Jake Gagne as Ashton Yates kind of settling into that 0.7 margin between himself and Jake Gagne. 9.5 seconds now the gap. So for Schultz, he goes 134.1. Petrucci did a 133.5, so another 0.6 of a second. They're in lap traffic right now, Jamie.
Well, and just talking to the teams down here on pit lane, a little bit of a different strategy to get ready for this race. Matthew Schultz, I talked to his crew chief, Ed Sullivan. He said, no, we had to commit one way or the other. They're on a full wet setup right now, and it's not really raining, and the track is drying out a little bit quickly, so he could start to struggle in these last 5 laps, whereas for Cam Peterson, that team took a different approach, and they're on kind of a hybrid setup right now. It's a little bit of a wet setup, a little bit of a dry setup, hoping to maximize these iffy kind of conditions we have.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with how they're going to manage the pivot front and rear in terms of the bike pitching forward and creating heat in the how easy the stroke is on the fork and the shock. There's so many factors involved in that full wet setup to the hybrid setup that she's talking about. So Cameron Peterson's kind of gathered it back up.
It's amazing when you have somebody just a little bit quicker in front of you, kind of showing you the way around, and that's exactly what you're seeing now. Cam Peterson's been able to do that. But let's talk about this guy for a minute, Greg. This is big for him. 33.9 that last time by. Seeing a couple more sprinkles on our screen. He's got 4 laps to go. Danilo Petrucci on this Warhorse HSBK Ducati doing just a perfect job so far. He's doing exactly everything he's needed to do. Ran into some people at the airport and at the hotel even this morning. They asked me what I thought his chances were here. I said if it rains, I think he can win, and I think that that's what he's doing right now. He's going to be able to try to claw back some of these points.
Yeah, this morning I was speaking with the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York team as well, and we looked up at the sky at 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, what do you think? And it's the only thing we think of is rain, because we know that we have the rider that can get the job done in the rain. And right now he's doing a fantastic job with 3.5 laps left to go. One of the things we look at too, Jay, when we look at the wetness of the racetrack too, is there any spray coming off the tires? Now it did look like on that front straightaway camera that there are some sprinkles there, but I'm still not seeing anything that's really keeping that tire super cool. But Petrucci squirming underneath him is doing a great job.
He's got 10 seconds. He's going to manage this. He's got 10 seconds. And you know, when you get to this point of the track right here, you can actually see other parts of the racetrack. Like without even having to look, you can see other areas, and you can see your gaps, and you can see who's back there and who's doing what. This guy's going to just stay focused on what he's doing right now, though, and you can see at a 10-second lead, 33.9, he was the quickest rider on the track last time by as well. So there's some of the spray that I saw a couple laps ago start. So it rained over in that section a little bit. But as he comes through here, Greg, with L3 go, getting the 3 laps to go, he's getting the coolest sign there. So.
Yeah, but when have you ever listened to that as a rider?
No, look, you don't need to tell that guy that. He knows what's happened. Look at Cam Peterson. Cam Peterson has gone back through on Matthew Schultz.
And this might be what Jamie talked about, the later starts of the race, but here goes the 22. Now he's right on the back of the number 1. So Ashton Yates is having an unbelievable run on that aftercare Hayes Racing Shivey BMW. That fresh and lean progressive Yamaha of Jake Gagne could come under fire. And these are valuable points, Jay. We talked about it. The live championship, if it finishes this way, it's going to be 1-point advantage for Gagne. If Ashton Yates gets around Jake Gagne, it's going to be add-in for Petrucci.
These two guys just keep fighting each other, don't they? Matthew took another shot in turn 5. Cam turns it back up underneath them again. Both these guys were laughing about battling with each other yesterday. They said they hadn't had a good race in a long time. Now they got 2 days of it.
And it's such high stress too, isn't it? Oh, and Ashton Yates with his...
This is the high stress right here. I can tell you there's a couple people stressing about this little battle right here, because we want to be able to see Ashton continue to go forward. And I think that, again, smart guy. He knows what's at stake for that number 1 plate in front of him. And if it's going to be a pass, I think it'll be an awful clean one. Last time they went through the front straightaway, Ashton had a lot of speed in this last corner that they're coming up on, and he actually had a run on Cam, but backed off as they got down towards turn 1. So we'll see if he gets that same run again.
Last time by the stripe, Ashton Yates had the fastest trap speed, by the way, at 161 to Gagne's 159. So we know that BMW has got some legs on it. The question is there enough straightaway? Not this time around.
Now I'm starting to see, Greg, I'm starting to see those rain flags come out even more. You can see the sprinkles are on our screen. We've got 2 laps to go. These guys have continued the fight. Everybody in the first 3 are all in the minute 33s. Gagne and Ashton Yates are in the 34s.
Danilo Petrucci out front is managing the lead. He's keeping it right around 10 seconds. As the 45 has another look over his left shoulder, so Schultz will go by his right shoulder.
Yeah, these guys are just going to
hear
keep
the crowd whistling, Jay, like they're so excited to see this passing, and just the intensity of this.
He's got a problem. Something's going on with the way Matthew's bike is shifting, or sometimes when it gets wet, water can get into the electronics of these motorcycles and make it a little bit more of a handful. And look at these guys; they just keep going back and forth. Yeah, it was a close one.
See, the problem with that situation, if you're Peterson, who continues to have struggles with the right side of the rear tire, is that if you're in that situation in the dry, you leave yourself a little margin to grab a little bit more lever. So that's where things get tense.
These things are starting to spin up pretty good now.
They are.
Because if the track, honestly, Greg, if the track really wasn't that wet.
Oh, there goes Cam.
Peterson.
Just lost the rear end of the motorcycle. A little bit too much throttle. And he's got to pick it up.
Oh, my gosh. And I didn't see Ashton Yates right behind Gagne there. I didn't see him.
When he caught Gagne at the last lap, he stuck his leg
broke the clip on. Matthew Schultz goes through right now. Gagne, and I don't see Ashton Yates anywhere.
No, he stuck his leg out, Jason.
Oh, he did? Okay.
I saw it. There was about a lap ago.
Look at the rain now. This is Danilo Lewis, who was running 6th in this race, I believe.
Unbelievable.
He was
on a backup motorcycle.
Borrowed R1.
Yes.
He started from the back of the grid. And see, this is what happens. Now the rain has really started. Now the conditions are really, really treacherous. Everybody's just got to kind of get rolling around. Cam Peterson just rolled past our commentary on the final lap. This guy doesn't care. He's out front. He's going to see some yellow flags ahead of him, but he knows the conditions have just gotten very dire. He went a minute 38.8, has a look over his shoulder. Danilo's just got to bring this bike home now.
Got to put it on cruise control and bring home another win. This would be his 5th win if he can pull this off on this last lap in Medallia Superbike. The Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York rider on the Ducati Panigale V4R. He was hoping for rain, the team was, he got it, and he's maximizing this opportunity. Unfortunately, Cameron Peterson hits the deck. It's not going to work in the favor of Petrucci. As we talked about, it's Petrucci versus the Yamaha train.
Yeah, he's just got to go as slow as he can, get this bike across the line. And, for him, it's a little bit unlucky that Cam Peterson crashed. It actually is going to help Jake Gagne.
It definitely will. The Ducati spinning onto the front straightaway we go. Danilo Petrucci, who stands up and takes a win. Medallia Superbike race number 2. And here comes Matthew Schultz, working that throttle as much as he can. He'll get second place, 6.6 behind. And here comes your reigning national champion, your points leader, shaking his head, but he makes it, and he gets a podium.
Man, that's a huge result for him.
Massive.
Yeah, this is what we wanted to see. We've got a fight now at Barber. Now, here we go. Hector Barbera is running in 4th on the 80. Another one of the riders that started from the back of the grid. Keep in mind, we've lost Cam Peterson, we've lost Ashton Yates, and we lost Danilo Lewis. But here we go. Hector Barbera is going to end up finishing 4th in this race.
He comes across the line, and behind him should be Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki's Jake Lewis.
Cam Peterson.
Oh, Cam Peterson.
Yeah, he picked the bike up. I thought I saw the clip-on broke off.
Did he ride one-handed?
He may have.
So Cameron Peterson ends up 5th, but the crowd cheering on. Danilo Petrucci, your live championship, has Petrucci now only 4 points back in this championship. It started today, 13. So it's Petrucci, Schultz, and Gagne who will be on the podium. Hector Barbera finishes 4th. Cameron Peterson finishes 5th. Jake Lewis in 6th, Hayden Gillum 7th, David Anthony, and Jeremy Coffey in the top 10 in 9th place, and Brandon Posh. Boy, what happened to Ashton Yates?
I don't know. Haven't even seen him, have we? So, Greg, it was right at that time when it started to get really wet. And at the beginning of this race, these tires were probably getting a lot of heat thrown through them. And so when it rained, I don't know how much grip they had.
We'll talk to Petrucci on the other side of this and find out how his race went in his 5th victory.
So coming into this race for Medallia Superbikes, Danilo Petrucci was behind, what, 13 points, right? And he just made up 9 on that. So there's a 4-point differential. Cam Peterson is running around with no left-hand clip-on, right? Or it's sitting there.
Off.
It is absolutely off. I asked if we could see a replay of this, and we don't even need to. It verifies exactly what we thought. Let's watch what happens here for those of you watching around the world or watching here on site.
Well, he hits the patch here.
And that's you've pointed that out before. Like even Petrucci on that last lap, better watch out. Okay, so that left clip-on right there dug into the ground, and it looks like, okay, it's there.
Spins around, and then you'll see it right now.
Uh-oh. It's not there.
It's not there.
It was spun, or it was spun down there on the bottom. So he might have been able to. It might have been plugged in just a little bit there, but it's definitely not right here. Look at that.
It's hanging off.
That's one of the best. He had to go back another lap, right? He had to go a full lap around this track.
Yes.
With one right hand and save 5th place. He's a master of saves, isn't he? We got a crash like that last year and wins.
And we were just talking about before that. So man, that championship battle from third to 4th was really going to close up.
Yep.
But actually.
He just saved it. He just saved a bunch. He just saved, what was he? He finished, he takes 11 points out of that. And he shakes his head. That's about all I can do. And there's your Geico save of the day. Hey, what a run by Danilo Petrucci. Everybody, we know how good he is in the rain. It was kind of that intermittent, soft rain. He didn't get that full wet feel, but he wanted to check out early, did just that.
Yeah, he was aggressive early, and, I think for him, the track wasn't that wet.
Right.
And he was just comfortable. He was aggressive early, got a huge lead, and then I think from there he just kind of cruised it on home. And when it started raining again toward the end, you could tell he started slowing down.
Yeah. And Jake didn't want any part of it today. I mean, you and I were looking at it, and Ashton Yates closed in. Not sure what happened to him and why he dropped back. But Jake was in preservation mode today because he couldn't win the championship today, but he could have really took a beating if he went down today.
Yeah, he could have been in lost a lot of points. So I think today, that's why I was saying yesterday, that win for him was so important, and for him missing that podium, for Danilo missing the podium yesterday, kind of eased up the pressure on Jake Gagne today. He didn't have to take all those chances in the tricky track. Now, he saved the points, and he's still in a pretty good spot headed to Barber.
Yeah, that win in the differential with Petrucci finishing 4th. This was Gagne's tough race. He finished 3rd. The difference in points between 3rd and 4th is 3. So going into the weekend and getting another 3 points. Now it's 4 going into the final 2 races of the year. Everything we wanted, Roger.
Yep. Perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. The most prestige class in America going to go down to the last race. 4 points separating these two guys. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and looking at this, we know that there's several guys that can win at Barber as well. The difference between 2nd and 3rd is 4 points. Again, you look, say Cam Peterson. Maybe it's a Matty Scholz that wins Barber #1. And then you could have Petrucci and Gagne, maybe a little foreshadowing. That's 4 points there. It's going to be a tight one. Unless somebody throws it away in race #1, it's going to come down to the very
and even if it's wet, Jake's got more pace in the wet if he needs it. I've seen him ride in the wet before. He almost won the Superbike race, and when was it, 2017, crashed with 1 lap to go.
And I said that before. We know that Danilo's good, but we also don't know what he would do here on this track because it is slipperier than most. We know he's fast, he stayed on top, and he takes the win.
Danilo Petrucci knee-deep in the fight to win Medallia Superbike Championship. Celebrations after race #2, and a big victory in wet conditions. And Petrucci lives up to all the hype. Let's take a look at the results. Very interesting end of the race with that rain falling. So Petrucci, 6.6. Then Scholz and Gagne on the podium. Hector Barber, a great run for him. Cameron Peterson, we saw it while you were in commercial break. Left handlebar dangling down there. Does a great job. Let's get right down to Hannah in Victory Circle.
His 5th victory of the season for Danilo Petrucci. Danilo, we know you've been struggling with some different issues round after round. How did these conditions affect those problems you've been seeing?
For sure. With this condition, our problems are gone because it's a completely different riding, and our bike works so good into the wet, and I like a lot to ride so smooth and flowing, and everything comes easy apart from 3 laps to go. I almost crashed because we got no any more rear tire, no rubber, and the rims was falling heavily. And but then I just managed to stay up, and yeah. At the end, we needed some rain because Jake yesterday was unstoppable. But anyway, today the rain helped us a lot.
Congratulations, Danilo Petrucci, today's Superbike race winner. Let's get over to Jamie with second place.
Matthew Skoltz able to bring home a second place finish. You didn't get your original grid position. We questioned what effect that would have had. What kind of motorcycle did you have today?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously had a really good motorbike, but just unfortunate with a bit of a mix-up getting out of the pit lane. I had to start from the back of the grid, which really hurt me there. I felt that we had the pace to be challenging up front, but I mean, with how things happen, I'm really happy to finish second, and I'm really sorry I saw that Cam ended up crashing there. We were having, another battle. One of my, the best friend, I hope he's good, but another thank you to the Westby boys. The bike just seems to be getting in better, and hopefully at Barber we can challenge Jake and Danilo up front.
I'll let you know Cameron Peterson did pick up the bike, and he rode it all the way to the checkered flag. But for you, that battle, talk us through some of those passes that were being made in the conditions that we saw on the racetrack.
I mean, it was really hard to drive out of a couple of corners. I wasn't going more than 50% throttle between some of the corners. So it was more just if you got a really good drive and it wasn't spinning too much, and you saw you were hooked up and catching someone, you just kind of went for the move. There was no planning it really, but it was awesome. I love racing with these guys, and we're really happy to be finishing second today. Thank you.
Congratulations on the second place finish. That's Matthew Skoltz. Hannah?
Rounding out the podium is Jake Gagne. Jake lost touch with the leaders and Danilo Petrucci very early on. How crucial was it for you to not only just finish this race in these conditions, but to finish it on the podium?
Yeah, this is a great result. I mean, hats off to Danilo, Matt, Cam. Those guys are riding awesome. And it was tough out there. It was slick, especially the end. The rain started coming back down. I saw guys going down everywhere, and yeah, I'm just happy we got this thing up on the podium, got some points, and we're bringing this championship down to the final round, so I'm stoked. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm happy that I'd be a part of it, and so thanks again to the whole TAC, Yamaha, Fresh Lean, Progressive Team, Alpine Stars, Mirai Helmets, everybody for sticking it out here in the rain, and yeah, roll on to Barber, let's do it.
The lead is only down to 4 points. Much different scenario than last year. What are your thoughts as we do head into that final round?
I'm excited, man. I just give it my everything. Go enjoy it, ride my butt off, and see what happens. There's no better guys that I'd like to be racing against than these guys, and to be in a championship hunt down to the end is really awesome. So I'm just stoked to be a part of it and give it my all. That's all I got.
Congrats, Jake. Guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's down to winner take all at Barber. It's unbelievable. All right, well, our coverage will continue for Medallia Superbike race number 2 on the other side of this commercial break, so don't go anywhere.
A lot of storylines, Roger. What do you want to talk about? The rain coming down. Danilo, you pointed out something just a second ago. They had that other flyby lap that they had to sort things out because everybody that missed the start lined up in their original position. That was wrong. You were going to have a lot of guys receive penalties, weren't you, if they wouldn't have done that. But taking away that one lap also might have saved Danilo Petrucci and some of the others as well. It might have been Jake Gagne on that last lap.
You could see how treacherous it was getting toward the end. I mean, the last lap, they had 2 guys crash there. So taking that another lap off early probably might have worked out for some of them and hurt somebody else, but it worked out the way it did. And all these guys are really good in the wet, and I think Danilo kind of, middling, saying the rain helped him today, admitted that. So it's probably going to give him a little confidence headed into Barber. But, I think Jake and Danilo both probably feel really good about their chances, and I'd say the way Jake's been riding last year and this year, he probably feels really good going into Barber that he can do the double.
Looking at the Superbike Cup as well, remember Danilo Lewis was leading 11 points coming into this weekend with Brandon Posh. If I look back after yesterday, I think it might have extended that, but you're going to have Posh maybe making up some points this time in the Superbike Cup side of things.
Yeah, Superbike Cup's getting tight as well. bummer to see Danilo crash. I mean, he blew up his bike this morning, borrowed a bike, didn't have a spare one, had to start last, and was having a heck of a race. Was up in, was it 6th or 7th at one point?
Yeah.
So
it was up
bad
there.
luck for him. But now, you know, those points are going down to Barber's. Where we still got some. We wrapped up some titles this weekend, but we still got some more to settle at Barber.
The next race coming up as well will be the Mission King of the Baggers. The title will be determined there. SportBikeTrackGear.com Juniors are going to be held after that. We had a little shifting of our format. We were supposed to end with the Harleys and Indians, but instead we're going to be ending with the juniors. Nothing like a little rain race to end on the youngest kids that you'll see in the field there. Looking at Danilo Petrucci, you have to feel for him and the reinvigoration for him. Losing those points yesterday, but coming back today and almost getting them all back again. 4 points. He knows he wins these next 2 races, he's the champion. Yeah, that's all he has to do, and that's the only thing you can ask for. Put yourself in position where you control your own destiny. You go there, you win both races, you're the champ. And, you know, it's what it's going to come down to, who does better at Barber this last race. So I think everybody's excited. It's the closest championship I can remember in a long, long time. So I'm looking forward to it to see what happens. What do we say? It should be 4 now. So even after race number 1, if Danilo wins that race and Jake's second, Danilo would have a 1-point advantage. It's going to be tight, but it's awesome. That's everything you wanted to see out of these guys. Again, it'll be another new track, a very smooth track, a very fun track at Barber Motorsports Park in 2 weeks' time. And Jake's going to have some help, though. You know, he's got there's
a
lot of Yamahas.
I know that the Westby team has a little help with Yamaha.
Whoa, hang on. We didn't think about that. Josh Herron, I talked to him, and he said he wanted to clinch the championship in Supersport. He did that. He said he would like to be out there, and I think that's the plan for him to be in Superbike next week. He might have a helper. He might have a helper, but it's going to be difficult for him to jump in the last race of the year at the level these guys are riding and be able to run at the front. But Josh Herron is a great rider. If anyone can do it, he can. Yeah, again, a lot of scenarios. Forgot about that Ducati tie-in here at NJMP. Might have to ask him when we make it down to the pits right after this race. Let's send it back to the guys next door. We still got more racing ahead.
Medallia Superbike coverage is sponsored by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Podium celebrations for the 5th win for Danilo Petrucci. Let's get right down to Jamie Howe.
With the special guest, the CEO of Ducati North America, Jason Chinnick. He comes out to a lot of races throughout the season, not all of them. You picked a good one this weekend, though. You watched Josh Herron wrap up the Supersport Championship yesterday. Just watched Danilo Petrucci win. You got to take home the team trophy yourself. What kind of momentum is there on the table right now for Ducati?
I mean, this is very exciting. We've been working on this for 5 or 6 years now. And to be able to see what the team has pulled off on these riders, I mean, between Josh and Daniello, it's not only made for great racing over the weekend, but, you know, at the end of the day, hope we sell some motorcycles as a result.
Now you're proving that this is important to you personally. You're standing out here in the rain. You could be back in the garage right now. We're in the silly season right now. We're looking ahead to next season. What is there to come?
That's a great question. It's a little premature for me to give anything away. But you can rest assured that Ducati is going to continue to have a presence here in MotoAmerica. I was talking earlier with one of your colleagues, and I sat down with Rain and Chuck like 6 years ago, and I committed that we're coming, but if we're going to come to compete, not just to show up. And we're competing at the highest level, and it looks like we're getting some wins out of it, so the future only looks good.
We have a big weekend ahead in Barber. That answer is good enough for me. Thank you for the time today.
All right, so Jason Chinnick will take that trophy home with him. Good for him. Our coverage will continue from the Jersey Motorsports Park in a moment.
Robbie Floyd and now Jason Y again. What was it, Eurythmics? Here Comes the Rain Again? Is that who sang that song? Jason, it looks like it's starting to rain a little harder now.
You're hitting the demographic of maybe the Baggers group. Don't ask the Junior Cup kids that one, Robbie.
Only Jeremy McWilliams would pick up on that one. The Baggers group aren't even that age. But, hey, Mission King of the Baggers, the big boys. And We talked about it the other day, kind of teasing what could be. Well, it's here, and it is raining, and these are the big bikes.
Well, look, you've been to more of these than I have. And, Roger, before you go, have we had a rain baggers race yet, or are we breaking some new ground here?
I don't
remember one.
I don't remember one either. They have tested, though, and that was what was funny, because I saw Jeremy McWilliams this morning, and they're shooting the TV show all around, the crew and stuff like that, and he said that he did get testing here at this track in the rain.
Okay.
And he said, I made 3 laps, and he said, I am done.
Wow.
I don't want to be out there anymore.
Okay, so that's what we're in for. So just to add to it, we've got a championship on the line. This is the season finale in Mission King of the Baggers. There are still 3 riders mathematically that have a shot at the title. 2 of them are very close, between Travis Wyman and Tyler O'Hara. And we're going to do it in the rain. We believe the first time we've raced them in the rain here in MotoAmerica. So can we have any more variables? Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
They tell me if it rains, as you've mentioned all day, this might be the toughest track. If it's going to rain anywhere, this is the toughest one.
Absolutely, without a doubt, Roger. Every time he talked about it years, and he's the guy who's like one of the best riders here at this track. And he said this is the one that's again, it's got its bumps, but it's also the way that the tires react to that asphalt makes it a little difficult. And even in those last couple of corners, you might think you're fine the entire race, and one of those last few turns, the left-handers, he's like, Rogers, even on that last lap, watch Danilo right here. He could still throw it down because that's how slippery it is.
Yeah, you could definitely see it developing. And you mentioned if they got another lap or 2 in that Medallia Superbike race, everything might have been different. And those are riders and teams and machines that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of data about how to ride under even worse conditions and worse rain than that. And this track still almost caught them out. So we've got a full wild card here with the championship on the line. But that's one of the unique things about motorcycle racing. We race rain or shine. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like it, the riders can always throw in that extra. It's the same conditions for everyone, so it doesn't matter.
And Jason, why they're going around right now, a lot of people, why are they doing this? Well, they have not had an opportunity to ride on those wet tires yet. So every one of the class makes no difference. We're going to see the juniors after a while. They're going to get an opportunity. If they would have had some time during the weekend the opportunity to test those tires, then they would just do their normal starting procedure. But because the rain waited until this final day, now we're doing this. And, Nicole, the MotoAmerica crew, we saw it coming. They sent out a bulletin earlier, and it's happening just like this. So they'll get 7 minutes. They'll pull it in. They'll get ready, do whatever preparations. If it were dry enough, they might even throw slicks on. That's not going to be the case. They're going to be on
past
wets.
that point now.
They're going to be on the wets. But how are they going to react? These big, wide bikes, all this horsepower. We see the speed they've had in the drive. Will we have that speed in the wet?
Yeah, they're only about 5 seconds off of the Superbike times, but now you can see the rain is probably coming down worse than it has all day. I've been patrolling the racetrack, pit reporting all day, and it's been mostly a drizzle. This has turned into real rain with a championship hanging in the balance and Mission King of the Baggers. Are you kidding me? What more can you ask for? This is going to be good. We'll send it next door.
All right, we're back at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Post-race coverage from Medallia Superbike race number 2. Only 2 rounds left, only 2 races left in this championship. 50 points, only 4 separate the top 2, Jason. Let's look ahead to Barber Motorsports Park, because we were talking off camera, and you seem to think that sometimes there's rain at Barber.
Yeah, well, we started the show basically by saying that there were 3 Yamaha riders and nobody to really help Danilo. Maybe a teammate for him is going to be wet, because it always rains at Barber just about every year we go down there. So it's taking this to the last race of the year, and you can see Danilo right off the bat just stomped his authority on the field. He didn't even hardly brake for turn 1. He rolled right through. Cam P tried to make an effort to stay with him. PJ Jacobson only lasted about a lap and a corner. Happened to see him walk away from what was otherwise a pretty successful weekend for him. Matthew Schultz had to start from the back of the grid, but he was marching forward. He would go through Ashton Yates, Drake Gagne, as well as the rest of the field until he got into the back of his countryman, South African Cam Peterson. Cam got shot out of the seat. It was almost like it gave Cameron a little shot to go with Matthew. However, with about a lap and 2 corners to go, Cam would slip out, break his clip-on grade. We saw that he did ride those last laps with 1 handlebar. This guy, though, Petrucci, goes on and wins this race, claws himself right back into it. I think we have a 3 or 4 point gap now, and it's really winner take all when we get to Barber.
So here are the standings. It is 4 points. So Gagne with 331 and Petrucci with 327. And that's where our focus is, because Cameron Peterson and Matthew Schultz are pretty well separated. Doesn't mean that Schultz can't reel Peterson in for that third place position, something that Schultz says that he wants to do. But as we look forward, it's going to be very interesting. We do know that that Danilo Petrucci and his team has had a test at Barber Motorsports Park with their Ducati Superbike. The question is, how fast did they go? It is going to be an unbelievable shoot-off to the final 2 rounds of the season. You know the dates. We'll be on the 24th and 25th of September from Barber Motorsports Park. What's going to happen in Medallia Superbike in the championship? We look forward to bringing it all to you. For Hannah Lopa, Jamie Howe, and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you real soon for the season finale.